I'm 75 years old, and lately I've been sitting in my kitchen at night, listening to the refrigerator hum, realizing how quiet a life can become when people slowly stop calling. Not because of one big fight, not because of something dramatic, just because time passed and I let it. I'm not telling this because I want sympathy. I don't need anyone to tell me it's okay. I'm telling it because I can feel the end of things more clearly now. Not just the end of my life, but the end of chances I assumed would always be there. When you're my age, the future stops feeling like a wide open road. It feels more like a short driveway. You can still move, but you're aware of the edge. Most days are simple. I wake up early, even though I don't need to. Old habits stick around longer than people do. I make coffee for one, read the paper slower than I used to, and sometimes I'll catch myself thinking about someone I haven't spoken to in 20 years, and I'll wonder when exactly that happened. There's no single date I can point to, no moment where I said, "This is when we drifted apart." That's the part that hurts the most. Now, it all felt harmless at the time. I used to think that if something mattered enough, it would last on its own, that real connections didn't need tending, that if someone loved you, they'd understand your absence. I was wrong about that. In my 20s, I was busy becoming someone. At least that's what I told myself. I worked long hours, said yes to overtime, yes to responsibilities, yes to being reliable. People like that about me. I like that about me too. I wasn't careless. I wasn't cruel. I showed up when it counted, or at least when I thought it counted. I had friends back then who felt like fixtures in my life. People I assumed would always be there, sitting at the same tables, laughing at the same stories. We didn't say goodbye when we parted ways for jobs or moves. We said talk soon. We meant it. Soon turned out to be a very flexible word. In my 30s, life filled up. Marriage, children, a mortgage. The days felt packed tight, like there was no extra space. If someone called, sometimes I let it go to voicemail because I was tired. Sometimes I meant to call back and didn't. I always thought I'd do it tomorrow. Tomorrow became a habit. I remember a friend inviting me to his daughter's birthday party. I had a deadline that week. I sent a gift instead. I told myself that was just as good. I didn't notice the pause in his voice the next time we spoke. Another friend stopped by once, unannounced. I was in the middle of something and felt irritated. I was polite, but distracted. He didn't stay long. I never told him I was glad he came. I assumed he knew. People don't always know. As the years went on, conversations got shorter. Holidays turned into cards instead of visits. Cards turned into texts. Texts turned into nothing. At the time, it didn't feel like loss. It felt like efficiency, like adulthood, like this was how things were supposed to go. I told myself I was doing the right things, providing, building, being responsible. What I didn't see was the cost. Or maybe I saw it, but it seemed small enough to ignore. A missed dinner here, a postponed visit there, a call that felt awkward because it had been too long, so I avoided it altogether. Avoidance is quiet. It doesn't announce itself as a mistake. In my 40s, my parents started to slow down. I visited, but not as often as I could have. I always thought there would be more chances. They'd been there my whole life. It felt impossible to imagine them not being there a little longer. When my father died, it wasn't sudden. There was time to prepare, they said. I remember standing in the hospital room, realizing how many ordinary conversations we never had. Not deep ones, just small ones. The kind you don't think to treasure. After the funeral, people reached out. Some I hadn't heard from in years. I told myself we'd reconnect. We hugged, said we should get together sometime. We didn't. By the time I was in my 50s, the circle was noticeably smaller. I noticed it, but I didn't panic. I still had my routines. I still had work. I still had a sense of purpose. What I didn't have was the same ease with people. Reaching out felt heavier now, like lifting something that had been sitting untouched for too long. I started to think maybe this was just the natural way of things. People come and go, life narrows, you adjust. Then my wife got sick. That's when the noise stopped. The background hum of busyness faded, and what was left was very clear, very quiet. People came at first, they brought food, they checked in, and then, slowly, they returned to their lives. I don't blame them. Illness has a way of rearranging priorities, especially when it isn't yours. After she passed, the house felt enormous. Every room seemed to echo. I realized how many of our connections had been shared. When she was gone, those threads loosened too. I thought about calling old friends then. I even picked up the phone a few times. But I didn't know what to say. Hello, it's been 20 years, and my wife just died. Didn't feel like an easy opening, so I stayed quiet. Silence is easy to maintain. It doesn't require courage. The turning point wasn't dramatic. It was a small thing. I ran into someone I used to be close to at the grocery store. We smiled, exchanged a few polite words. He asked how I'd been. I said good. He nodded, and we moved on. As I walked away, I realized that was probably the last time we'd ever speak. Not because of anger, just because there was nothing left holding us in the same orbit. That realization stayed with me. What can't be fixed, now is the time. You can apologize for a lot of things. You can explain misunderstandings, but you can't rewind decades of distance. Some people are gone. Some don't remember me the way I remember them. Some probably think of me as someone they used to know, briefly. I always thought I'd be remembered more. That sounds vain, but it's honest. I thought my presence would leave a deeper mark. I didn't understand how easy it is to fade quietly. There's a particular loneliness that comes from realizing you weren't as essential as you believed, that the world keeps moving without noticing your absence. I still have moments of gratitude. I'm not bitter. I had a good life in many ways. I loved and was loved. But there's a layer of sorrow that sits underneath everything now. Not loud, just constant. If you're listening to this and you're younger, I won't tell you what to do. I don't have the authority for that. I can only tell you what I wish I had understood. I wish I'd known that relationships don't survive on intention alone, that being busy is not the same as being present, that people interpret silence in ways you don't get to control. I wish I'd known that there is no later guaranteed, that postponing connection feels neutral in the moment, but it accumulates weight over time. Mostly, I wish I'd known that love requires inconvenience. It requires showing up when it's not efficient, when it interrupts your plans, when it feels unnecessary because you assume the bond is strong enough already. It's not that I made terrible choices. It's that I made small ones consistently. Now, my days are slower. I notice things I rushed past before. Sunlight on the table, the sound of my own breathing, memories that arrive uninvited. I talk to people less, but I think about them more. I don't have many regrets left that I can act on. That's the strange part. Regret isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just the knowledge that something mattered more than you treated it. I'm not asking you to change your life because of this. I'm just saying that if there's someone you keep meaning to call, the cost of doing it now is almost always less than the cost of waiting. I'm 75, and I finally understand why the people I love drifted away. It wasn't because they stopped caring, it was because I kept assuming there would be time to care later. There isn't always later. These days, I sit with that truth. I don't fight it anymore. Acceptance doesn't erase the sadness, but it softens it. If this meant something to you, I'm glad. If it didn't, that's okay too. I'll finish my coffee, wash the cup, and let the house be quiet again. That's how most evenings end now, and I'm learning to live with that.